The crystalline arena of Nexus Prime gleamed under 3 artificial suns, casting prismatic rainbows across the packed Coliseum. 50,000 alien spectators roared their approval as another challenger crumpled to the ground, smoke rising from his charred armor. The crowd's favorite, Zaxon the Destroyer, stood over his defeated opponent with 4 muscular arms raised in triumph. "Is there no one else?" Zaxon's voice boomed through the arena's amplification system. His reptilian features twisted into what passed for a grin among his species. Purple blood dripped from minor wounds on his scaled hide, battle trophies he wore like jewelry. Surely the great Galactic Federation can provide better entertainment than this weakling from Altair 7. The crowd erupted again. Vendors hawked exotic refreshments, while bookmakers frantically adjusted odds. This was Zaxon's 47th consecutive victory in the Grand Combat Championships. He had earned his reputation by dismantling opponents with surgical precision, combining brute strength with cunning strategy. His energy blade hummed with residual power as he surveyed the arena for his next victim. High above in the VIP section, Ambassador Krill of the Centauri Coalition leaned forward with interest. His insectoid features reflected the arena lights as compound eyes tracked every movement below. Most impressive display. "Wouldn't you agree, Ambassador Chen?" He clicked and translated Universal Standard. Marcus Chun, Earth's first and only ambassador to Galactic Council, remained stoic despite the obvious provocation. His weathered face showed no emotion as he watched medical drones carry away the latest casualty. At 62 years old, Chen had seen enough violence to last several lifetimes. His military background served him well in these diplomatic situations, where showing weakness meant losing respect among the more aggressive species. "Brutal efficiency," Chen replied diplomatically, "though I wonder if raw power is truly the measure of a warrior's worth." Krill's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Perhaps your species thinks differently? I seem to recall humans have quite the reputation for, how do you say, aggressive tendencies." The comment drew chuckles from nearby alien dignitaries. Everyone knew the stories about human warfare, though most considered them exaggerated myths. How could such a small, fragile species pose any real threat to the galactic community? Down in the arena, Zaxon began his ritual victory dance. Each stomp of his massive feet sent tremors through the crystalline floor. His species, the Vorthak, were renowned throughout the galaxy as natural-born killers. Standing nearly 9 feet tall with natural armor plating and redundant organ systems, they were evolution's perfect predators. Zaxon himself was considered exceptional even among his own kind. "Attention, creatures of the galaxy," Zaxon bellowed, his forearms spread wide. "I have conquered warriors from every known system. Klingon berserkers, Martian gladiators, even the legendary shadow fighters of Tau Ceti. All have fallen before my might." He paused dramatically, letting his gaze sweep across the VIP section where various ambassadors sat. When his eyes found the human delegation, his expression shifted to one of amused disdain. "But wait, I see we have representation from the mythical Terra. The humans." Zaxon's laughter echoed through the arena like thunder. "Tell me, little pink creatures, do any of you possess the courage to face me? Or are you content to hide behind your diplomatic immunity while real warriors bleed for glory?" The crowd's reaction was immediate and explosive. Alien voices raised in jeers and taunts directed at the human section. Some species found the idea of humans in combat genuinely hilarious, while others were simply caught up in the mob mentality. The arena's energy reached fever pitch as thousands of beings demanded human blood. Ambassador Chen felt the weight of countless eyes upon him. His small delegation of 3 humans looked desperately uncomfortable. Sarah Martinez, his cultural attaché, gripped her seat's armrest so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Dr. James Brooks, their scientific advisor, was frantically calculating odds on his datapad, probably looking for some way to mathematically prove this was a terrible idea. But Chen's attention was drawn to the 3rd member of their group. Captain Jake Morrison sat perfectly still, his expression unreadable. The 28-year-old Special Operations veteran had been assigned as their security chief, though his role was supposed to be purely ceremonial. Morrison's steel-gray eyes tracked Zaxon's movements with the predatory focus of an apex hunter studying prey. "Well," Zaxon continued his taunting, I have heard tales of human combat prowess, but surely those are simply stories told to frighten younglings. Your species is soft, weak, built for hiding in caves rather than facing honorable combat. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced strength or speed. What could such pathetic beings possibly accomplish against a true warrior? The insults continued for several minutes, each one more creative and degrading than the last. Zaxon questioned human courage and intelligence, and even their right to exist as a sentient species. The crowd ate it up, some aliens nearly falling from their seats with laughter at particularly clever barbs about human anatomy. Through it all, Morrison remained motionless. His breathing stayed steady. His pulse never quickened. He had heard worse insults from drill sergeants before breakfast. But something else was building behind those calm gray eyes. Something that would have made Zaxon reconsider his words if the Vorthak warrior had possessed the wisdom to recognize it. Finally, Ambassador Chen could stand no more. The diplomatic implications of this public humiliation would haunt human-alien relations for decades if left unanswered. More importantly, his pride as both a human and former soldier demanded response. "Captain Morrison," Chen said quietly, his voice barely audible above the crowd's continued laughter. "Sir," Morrison's reply was crisp, professional. "Do you have any interest in accepting this challenge?" Morrison turned to look at his superior, and for just a moment, Chen saw something flicker behind those steady eyes. It wasn't anger exactly, or even excitement. It was something far more dangerous. Calculation. "I believe I do, sir," Morrison said calmly. "With your permission, of course." Chen nodded once. "You have it, Captain. Show them what humans can do." Morrison stood with fluid grace, his movements drawing immediate attention from the nearby alien observers. He wasn't particularly large by human standards, standing just under 6 feet tall, with the lean build of a distance runner. His brown hair was regulation short, his uniform immaculate despite the arena's oppressive heat. To most aliens, he looked like exactly what Zaxon had described. Soft, weak, utterly unremarkable. The crowd fell silent as Morrison made his way down to the arena floor. Even the vendors stopped hawking their wares to watch this unexpected development. Whispered conversations ripped. Zaxon's 4 eyes widened with genuine surprise as the human approached. In all his years of combat, no one had ever volunteered to face him after witnessing his previous victories. Most challengers were either conscripted criminals or glory-seeking fools who hadn't done their research. This human seemed different somehow, though Zaxon couldn't quite identify why. "You cannot be serious," Zaxon rumbled, his voice carrying easily across the arena without amplification. "I have just defeated a warrior from Kepler, 442b, a being bred specifically for combat. His natural bone density was 3 times greater than your entire species, and I snapped his spine like a dried twig. What makes you think you can succeed where he failed?" Morrison stopped at the challenger's mark, a glowing circle embedded in the arena floor exactly 50 meters from Zaxon's position. He looked up at the towering alien with the same expression he might wear while ordering coffee. "I guess we'll find out," Morrison said simply. The arena erupted once more, but this time the laughter held a nervous edge. There was something unsettling about the human's complete lack of fear. Seasoned warriors in the crowd recognized that look, the calm that came only from absolute confidence in one's abilities. But how could such a small, unaugmented creature possess that kind of self-assurance? Zaxon's confusion quickly gave way to irritation. This pathetic little creature was somehow stealing his moment of triumph. The crowd's attention had shifted from celebrating his victory to questioning his opponent's sanity. Time to remind everyone why he was the undisputed champion. "Very well, human," Zaxon sneered. "I will try to make this quick. Your death will at least provide some entertainment for the masses." The arena's officiating system activated automatically, projecting rules and weapon selections onto holographic displays. Standard Galactic dueling protocols applied. No outside interference. Combat continued until death or surrender. Any available weapon could be selected from the arena's extensive armory. Zaxon moved to the weapon selection console with practiced efficiency. His 4 hands danced across the controls, selecting his preferred loadout. Dual energy blades for close combat, a plasma rifle for medium-range engagements, and a personal shield generator to absorb initial attacks. The weapons materialized on the side of the arena in flashes of blue light. Morrison approached his own console with considerably more deliberation. The available options were staggering. Energy weapons of every conceivable type, projectile firearms from dozens of different civilizations, melee weapons ranging from simple blades to exotic molecular disruptors. For nearly a full minute, he stood quietly studying the selections while 50,000 aliens waited in growing anticipation. Finally, Morrison made his choices. The crowd gasped in collective disbelief as his weapons materialized. A simple kinetic rifle of obviously human design, a basic combat knife that looked primitive by galactic standards, and no defensive equipment whatsoever. That's it. Zaxon laughed so hard his whole body shook. A projectile weapon and a blade that couldn't cut through my natural armor plating? Human, I am beginning to think your species has a death wish. Morrison checked his rifle's action with practice efficiency, loading a standard magazine of conventional ammunition. The weapon was nothing special. A modified version of the M4 carbine that had served human soldiers for decades. Compared to the exotic energy weapons available in the arena, it looked like something from a museum. Maybe, Morrison said as he slung the rifle across his shoulder. But it's my death wish. The arena's countdown began, projected numbers floating in the air above both combatants. 10 seconds until combat commenced. Zaxon powered up his energy blades, their purple glow casting eerie shadows across his scale features. His shield generator hummed to life, creating a barely visible barrier around his massive form. Morrison simply stood there, rifle still slung, hands at his sides. He looked for all the world like a man waiting for a bus. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. The word combat blazed across the arena's displays, and Zaxon immediately charged forward with a roar that shattered several windows in the upper levels. His forelegs moved with surprising speed for something his size, closing the 50-meter gap in just under 3 seconds. Energy blades raised high. He prepared to end this farce with one decisive strike. Morrison waited until the last possible moment before moving. What happened next would be analyzed, debated, and replayed millions of times across the galaxy for years to come. In one fluid motion, Morrison dropped to one knee, brought his rifle to his shoulder, and fired 3 shots in rapid succession. The first round struck Zaxon's shield generator, overloading the device in a spectacular shower of sparks. The second punched through the alien's natural armor, just below his primary heart. The third found the gap between 2 armor plates at his throat. Zaxon's charge became a stumble, then a fall. He crashed to the arena floor less than 5 meters from Morrison's position, his energy blades skittering across the crystalline surface. Purple blood pooled beneath his massive form as he struggled to understand what had just happened. The arena fell completely silent. Morrison stood slowly, his rifle still trained on the fallen alien. He waited a full 10 seconds before determining that Zaxon was no longer a threat. Only then did he lower his weapon and walk calmly toward the exit. The silence stretched on for nearly a minute before someone in the crowd began to clap. Then another joined in. Within moments, the entire arena was on its feet. 50,000 aliens providing a standing ovation for the small human who had just accomplished the impossible. But Morrison wasn't paying attention to the accolades. His mind was already moving to the next challenge, the next mission, because that's what humans did. They adapted, they overcame, and they never, ever gave up. The legend of a human warrior was about to begin. The celebration in the arena continued for hours, but Morrison had long since disappeared into the bowels of Nexus Prime's diplomatic quarter. News of his victory spread across the galaxy at light speed, transmitted through quantum communication networks to every inhabited system. Within 6 hours, human defeats Zaxon was the most downloaded story in galactic history. Ambassador Chen found Morrison 3 days later in the embassy's small gymnasium, methodically working through a combat training routine. Sweat beaded on the captain's forehead as he practiced knife techniques against holographic opponents, his movements precise and economical. "You become quite famous, Captain," Chen said, settling into a nearby chair. "Every major news network wants an interview. The Galactic Sport Authority has offered you a 10-year contract worth more than Earth's entire GDP. 3 different alien species have formally requested permission to study your combat techniques. Morrison completed his current sequence before responding. And what did you tell them, sir? That you're not available for comment. Chen paused, studying the younger man's expression. The real question is what happens next. That victory has changed everything, Jake. Every warrior in the galaxy now sees humans as a threat to be eliminated or a prize to be claimed. We've gone from irrelevant to infamous overnight. The captain toweled off his face, considering the implications. Earth had joined the Galactic community less than 5 years ago, accepted more as a curiosity than a legitimate civilization. Most aliens viewed humans as primitive newcomers who might eventually develop into something interesting given a few thousand years of evolution. Morrison's victory had shattered that perception completely. How many challenges have come in? Morrison asked. 47 as of this morning, Chen replied grimly. Everything from formal dueling requests to barely concealed threats. The Korthak Confederation wants to send their entire gladiatorial college after you. The Hive Collective has issued something they call a termination decree, though our translators aren't entirely sure what that means. Most concerning is this. Chen handed over a data pad displaying an official communication. The seal at the top belonged to Warlord Thane, Supreme Commander of the Crimson Legion, and widely regarded as the most dangerous individual in the galaxy. His mercenary army had conquered 17 systems in the past decade, leaving nothing but scorched worlds in their wake. Morrison read the message twice before speaking. He wants a formal challenge match on neutral ground. Winner takes all combat, no weapons restrictions, no outside interference. Loser's entire species becomes property of the victor. He looked up at Chen. This is insane. He's talking about enslaving all of humanity based on a single fight. The Galactic Council is under tremendous pressure to approve it, Chen explained. Thane has allies among several of the major powers. They're arguing that your victory was a fluke, that humans got lucky once but couldn't possibly repeat the performance against a real warrior. If we refuse the challenge, it would be seen as proof that Earth doesn't belong in the galactic community. Morrison set down the datapad and resumed his training routine, working through a series of grappling techniques. His mind raced through tactical assessments while his body moved on autopilot. Warlord Thane wasn't just another arena champion. Intelligence reports described him as 8 feet tall with cybernetic enhancements that push his physical capabilities beyond most species' natural limits. He had never lost a personal combat engagement in over 200 battles. What does Earth Command say? Morrison asked between techniques. They want you to refuse. The risk is too great. The potential consequences unthinkable. If you lose, every human being becomes a slave. If you win, Chen trailed off. If I win, we become the most feared species in the galaxy overnight, Morrison finished. Every other civilization will see us as an existential threat. They'll unite against us, and Earth won't survive the combined assault. Both men fell silent, contemplating the impossible choice. Refuse the challenge and accept permanent second-class status in galactic society. Accept it and risk either enslavement or annihilation. There were no good options, only degrees of catastrophe. There's a third possibility, Chen said carefully. What if this isn't about winning or losing? What if it's about sending a message? Morrison stopped his training routine and gave his superior his full attention. Every alien species measures strength through individual combat prowess, Chen continued. They see warfare as a series of personal duels scaled up. But humans have always been different. We fight as units, as teams, as entire civilizations working together. Maybe it's time to teach them what that really means. The plan that emerged over the next several days was either brilliant or completely insane, depending on one's perspective. Rather than accepting or refusing Thane's challenge, Earth would propose modified terms. Not a single combat between champions, but a series of engagements designed to demonstrate human military doctrine in all its forms. The formal response, transmitted through official diplomatic channels, sent shockwaves throughout the galactic community. Earth accepted the basic premise of Thane's challenge, but requested a more comprehensive test of military capability. 5 separate engagements: individual combat, small unit tactics, large-scale battlefield command, strategic planning, and combined arms coordination. If humanity won the majority, they would be recognized as a major galactic power with all associated rights and privileges. If they lost, Earth would voluntarily restrict its expansion beyond the solar system for the next century. Thane's response came within hours. Acceptable. Prepare for annihilation. The venue chosen for these unprecedented war games was Kepler 186F, an uninhabited world with diverse terrain suitable for various combat scenarios. The Galactic Council established observation posts staffed by neutral parties to monitor and record every engagement. Military analysts from dozens of species arrived to witness what many believed would be humanity's final performance on the galactic stage. Morrison found himself appointed as overall human commander, a responsibility that weighed heavily on his shoulders. Earth's best and brightest had been assembled for the challenge. Special Forces operators, Marine expeditionary units, Navy tacticians, and Air Force strategic planners. 2,000 humans against Thane's 10,000 Crimson Legion veterans. The night before the first engagement, Morrison stood alone on a hill overlooking their base camp. Stars he couldn't name filled an alien sky, reminding him how far from home they had come. His rifle lay across his knees, cleaned and ready for whatever tomorrow might bring. Nervous. The voice belonged to Sergeant Maria Santos, his second-in-command and oldest friend in the military. Terrified, Morrison admitted, not of dying, but of failing. Every human who ever lived, who ever will live, is depending on what we do here. Santos settled beside him, her own weapon cradled comfortably in experienced hands. Remember what you told me during that mess in Afghanistan? Sometimes the only way to win is to change the rules of the game. At dawn, the first engagement began. Individual combat, Morrison versus Thane himself, witnessed by representatives from every major galactic power. The warlord was even more impressive in person than intelligence reports suggested. Cybernetic implants augmented his already formidable natural abilities, and an armor was crafted from materials that could deflect most known weapons. But Morrison had spent the intervening weeks studying every available recording of Thane's previous battles. He had identified patterns, preferences, weaknesses that could be exploited by someone willing to think unconventionally. The fight lasted exactly 43 seconds. Thane expected a direct assault, honor-bound single combat between warriors. Instead, Morrison used the terrain to his advantage, drawing his opponent into a carefully prepared ambush site. Explosive charges buried. The second engagement demonstrated small unit tactics. 10 humans against 50 Crimson Legion soldiers in a complex urban environment. The aliens expected conventional warfare, advancing by bounds, establishing firing positions, grinding forward through superior firepower. Instead, the humans disappeared into the maze of buildings and began a campaign of psychological warfare. Using advanced communication equipment, they coordinated simultaneous strikes from multiple directions. Improvised explosive devices eliminated key leaders. Precision marksmanship from concealed positions made the survivors afraid to move. Within 2 hours, the remaining Legion forces had surrendered rather than continue facing an enemy they couldn't locate or predict. By the third engagement, Thane was beginning to understand that he faced something entirely new. Large-scale battlefield command pitted 100 humans against 500 Legion troops in open terrain. The aliens deployed in traditional formation. Heavy infantry supported by air cover and artillery. It should have been a massacre. Instead, the humans scattered into small, highly mobile teams that rendered the Legion's heavy weapons ineffective. They used the aliens' own close air support against them, painting targets with laser designators that caused friendly fire incidents. Most importantly, they demonstrated a human concept of combined arms warfare, infantry, armor, artillery, and air power working in perfect coordination to achieve effects greater than the sum of their parts. The fourth engagement tested strategic planning abilities. Both sides were given identical resources and tasked with conquering a continental landmass defended by automated systems. Thane's approach was direct. Mass the largest possible force and drive straight for the objective. It was the same strategy that had won him dozens of campaigns across the galaxy. The human plan was completely different. Rather than attacking the automated defenses directly, they infiltrated behind enemy lines and captured the manufacturing facilities that produce replacement parts. When the defenders ran out of ammunition and spare equipment, they surrendered without firing a shot. The entire campaign lasted less than 6 hours. By the time the fifth and final engagement began, word of the previous results had spread throughout the galaxy. Alien military observers were frantically revising their estimates of human combat capability. Some species had already begun drafting alliance proposals, hoping to secure favorable terms before the war games concluded. The final test was combined arms coordination. 2,000 humans against 5,000 Crimson Legion troops in a scenario that replicated large-scale interstellar warfare. Thane threw everything he had into this last engagement, knowing that failure would mean the end of his reputation and possibly his life. The battle raged for 3 days across multiple continents. Legion forces, fighting with the desperation of the doomed, demonstrated why they had conquered so many worlds. Their individual soldiers were stronger, faster, and better equipped